like, I guess what happens here, Monica, is we get into this situation where we go, oh, it's the same teams every year, right? Like that can happen too, where we get bored of the same teams and it's just this, like, why even bother having a regular season? It's always going to be that team versus this team. It ends up getting to a point where it's oversaturated with the same people. You want to see new, fresh faces. Well, you got that now.
This is excellent.
And that's what's cool about this finals.
Are you happy?
That's why I'm buying in.
Okay.
Of course I'm happy.
I was about to say,
There's
I'm
a
not
lot
sure.
of great stories. There's Chris Paul. There's Monty Williams and his unbelievable story and what he's been through, of course, but also the fact that he's a really good coach.
Excellent.
What James Jones has done there, what they've done with that franchise, which only a couple of years ago looked like wayward franchise that can't get it right,
100%.
always in the lottery.
Yes.
And now that has built up to something. Devin Booker on the verge of, and it's funny, can I for a minute say that it was a couple months ago I did a list of top 5 players under 25,
Yes,
I think it was.
We did this, yes.
And I put Devin Booker at the top, and people thought I was crazy. Well, who's crazy now, Monica?
Who's crazy now? You
I mean, did I not know? I mean, I watched this kid from Kentucky, and I love shooters, and this guy's a shooter. He's a scorer now more than anything, and he's having that. Now, Stephen A. compared him to Kobe.
Whoa.
I will say, though, that when you watch him in certain aspects of his game, it is Kobe-esque. The way he can get to his spots, he knows where he's got to can get there, can score. I'm not going as far to say that he is the next Kobe, but there is a lot of that Mamba mentality about him offensively. Love that about his game, and he continues to grow. Is that crazy?
I think sometimes we forget about the other side of the basketball, and I am not saying that Devin is a stick in the mud defensively, right?
Well, you have to be as good enough.
And I was about to say, I think that he's done a solid job. He really frustrates me with some of those goofy fouls, especially when you are tasked with guarding a guy like Paul George. But nonetheless, they got through the series. But I'm hesitant on the Kobe thing because Kobe has some straps, like straight up turn your water off, as our boy Wally says. Like, and Devin's not quite there. And so to me, that's why the bar that Kobe represents is up here, and folks are still trying to get to it. However, offensively, all right, I can see some of that. For sure.
Like I said, getting to your spots is one of those things that's inside basketball. You know exactly what I'm talking about yourself as a shooter. You know what I mean. That's something that if you can do that, and you're a shooter, you're going to be a great scorer.
Facts.
And he has learned to do that. Now, they did go, was it 8-0, right, in the bubble?
In the bubble.
And there was this thought of this Phoenix team might be on their way. Then they add Chris Paul. That is the final, as they talk about the proverbial final piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
What were you doing there with your fingers?
What's the
seasoning?
The dude off of Instagram. The little.
I don't know what that is.
Salt?
It's fine. The salting. There you go. Come on.
That's
Thanks,
the
Pat.
salting?
There you go. Chris Paul is the salt.
Is that final, like, there's that final ingredient?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's become for the Suns. We've also mentioned Giannis and the Bucks and how they've run into that wall where they were close. They had, what was it? They were up 2-0 conference finals a couple of years ago. Giannis gets hurt. They just can't get it right against the Heat. Like they're there, but they just couldn't get beyond. Whether it was the Raptors and Kawhi, whether it was the Heat and the Giannis injury, then Giannis gets hurt again. But now Chris Middleton is ready to step up and become that guy. As we said, Giannis this is actually, we didn't say this is what Drew Holiday said. Giannis is the soul of the team. Chris Middleton's the heart of the team. A lot of teams have a heart and soul guy. But they've got one guy that's the heart, one guy that's the soul, and I love that comparison. We were just talking about with Jay Will, what would this title, as I mentioned in the Sports Center, it's only Jay Crowder's played in the finals. Like no one else has any experience really in the finals. So which of these two teams would it mean more to? Which stars would it mean more to? Chris Paul's waited 16 years, who's another guy that never could get over the hump, been through injuries before, actually already going through, he mentioned a wrist injury he's got right now, but the rest has helped him. Or Giannis, who's needed this to establish himself maybe fully as a superstar. What would it mean? Like, who does it mean more to? Obviously, and I know it means a lot to everybody. But not to them, but to how we view them. Who does it mean more
It's
to?
Chris Paul. This conversation is short for me because it's Chris Paul, because of the time that it's taken him to get here and what he's meant to this Phoenix Suns squad and the way he's elevated. But I want to run it back to something you said as we look at the arc for this Bucks squad, though, Han. The two injuries in the previous 2 seasons, Raptors go on to win it all. Miami goes on to get to the finals. Oh, man, I'm going to do it anyway. Sometimes I get frustrated with the hypotheticals, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm curious.
That's what we live in.
nobody thought the Hawks were going to get here.
To the conference final.
To the conference final.
No.
Don't tell me you did. Like, you're lying.
Nobody did.
Nobody outside of Trae Young and Rayford Young. By the way, Mr. Rayford Young tweeted me the other day. I've been said that squad was good. But anyway, here we go. Hawks do the Bucks an immense favor by taking care of the Sixers.
Yep.
If that matchup is Sixers-Bucks, Giannis gets injured again, is this the third time we see the same nonsense?
But that's been the crazy thing about these finals. It's the same, this playoffs. It's that the Sixers weren't the Sixers. The Celtics weren't the Celtics. The Lakers got hurt.
What do you mean the Sixers weren't the Sixers? Why the Sixers weren't the Sixers?
Because Ben Simmons was a disaster. He was a mess.
He wasn't. Did he have an injury that I missed?
No, but he would. No, he just. But he. Yes, he did. No, he did. He had the neck up injury. He had some issues up here that they got to figure out with him.
That's not like Trae stepping
come
on.
You're telling me the Sixers, that number 1 seed Sixers all season was the same team you saw in the playoffs?
Listen,
that team had problems. You could see it.
It
started with one of their most important players.
It may have had problems, correct, but that's not like Giannis being out because of a hyperextended knee. That's not like Trae being out because he stepped on an official's foot. Like, I don't have time for this. No. This is not
mental
the time.
Injuries don't count?
No, at this point.
He had mental injuries.
And I refuse to allow us to put that entire series on Ben Simmons alone. Like, all of them was wetting the bed down the stretch.
Well, also, Embiid, if you want to talk injury, Embiid was playing on a torn meniscus.
Now that part is true. And early in that series,
which cost him, he couldn't make a layup. Remember, he went 0 for 12 second half of a key game,
happened.
couldn't make a layup. That would have been a win. They should have won that series in 5. That series should have been over 4-1. It wasn't.
Breathe.
Hey.
Listen, the larger point.
You want to talk hypothetical? This is my wheelhouse.
To go with
my wheelhouse.
The larger point, though, for me is how close were the Bucks to potentially third-time injury snipes them? Even if you give me a healthy Trae, right? If
the Trae injury is what balanced it. It wasn't
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they were that close, and I think that to me is why I can't entertain this conversation around the asterisk. Although we have a record 9 superstars hurt this year, I can't entertain it because every year something. Listen, health is fleeting. You're that close in terms of your margin of error, one way or the other, an ankle twist the wrong way. You know what I mean?
I will end the asterisk conversation this way.
Okay.
Do we have an asterisk when the Rockets won back-to-back championships?
You better talk to him.
Is there an asterisk there?
No.
Because the greatest player on the planet took 2 years off. So is there honestly, did anybody say, well, Hakeem's not winning that title if Michael Jordan's still playing for the Bulls? Did anyone bring that up at his Hall of Fame speech? Rudy Tom Jonathan, were people saying that about the Rockets?
No, you're right.
Nobody brings that up. So why is there an asterisk now when there wasn't then, when the greatest player on the planet who had just won 3 in a row, who might have, think about this, might have won 8 straight.
Ooh.
I mean, this is Bill Russell
because
territory.
Might
have. But he wasn't in the game.
And there was no asterisk because he was quietly doing his thing elsewhere, the greatest player in the game, and everybody else was proceeding. This year, we've had the most front-facing voice of it all suggest that LeBron didn't say asterisk, but by deductive reasoning, he's given birth to this injury conversation, which has allowed us to espouse on the little
Would LeBron have brought
asterisk.
that up if they were in the finals?
Hello, talk to me. Y'all better go ahead with this asterisk conversation.
But I love LeBron because of obviously how important he is to the game.
100%.
But we also, I know how I'd be if I was him. I'd be just as petty.
Listen.
I'd be just as petty. Well, if we don't lose AD, so let's put an asterisk on this
all things considered, I am not naive to act as if this was an uncharted territory for all of us, whether you were playing in the NBA or just living your life. We're doing this on the heels of a pandemic. There's going to be certain things that make us all uncomfortable. And to be quite honest, we got another year of a tight turnaround, so just get ready for more asterisks, which is nonsense.
It's stupid. Can I ask you this, though? Speaking of asterisks and how fans should feel about certain things. I feel a certain way. So tonight is the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 4, okay? Mm-hmm. And the Tampa Bay Lightning could win in a sweep over the Montreal Canadiens to win their second straight Stanley Cup. All right, that could happen tonight. And the Islanders, my favorite team, my favorite hockey team, lost in 7 games to the Lightning, lost 1-0 in Game 7. Painful, right? Think about that. Am I supposed to feel good? And it's the same thing like the Knicks lost to the Hawks. The Hawks got to the conference final. That's another one of my teams. So with that in mind, do I feel good that, you know what? The Islanders lost to a dominant champion that just won their second title, and you really pushed them as far as you could push them to the edge. And it took everything to overcome you. So I feel good about that, or should I be frustrated that, man, I'm 2 goals away from basically winning a Stanley Cup for the first time since 1983? I don't know if I'm supposed to be good, or would I rather just have gotten just dominated or I don't know how I'm supposed to feel because that feels like I'm closer than I thought I was,
This-
and I don't know if I'm ever getting that close again.
This is.
And then the Nick thing with the Hawks is like, was I supposed to be rooting for the Hawks so I could feel better about, hey, no one saw this, and the Hawks just ran through everybody, but the Hawks losing. Now I'm like, am I supposed to like that or? I don't know how to feel right now.
All right, so
I need some help. Please help me.
All right, so a similar situation. What is the Chris crazy shot Villanova national championship game? Chris Jenkins,
Yeah.
whatever that was, right?
Right.
So that year, I was at the national championship. I'm pretty sure Georgetown had beaten Villanova. I want to say twice in the regular season. Anyway, Georgetown is my alma mater. Really quick, just catch folks up. And I remember
Monica McNutt is the third most
Don't do this.
popular basketball
Don't do this.
player in the history of Georgetown basketball. For everybody to know, it starts with Patrick Ewing, then there's Allen Iverson, Monica McNutt, and then I think it's Dikembe or Alonzo. They might be tied for fourth.
Mark
after
it
you.
down. 6:45. Han embarrasses me, but it's all good. All right. So that year, I'm at the national championship, and I remember thinking, I'm gonna root for the Big East, right? And then of course they go on to win. Next day in the airport, literally sick to my stomach at like Villanova won a national championship, and I'm a Georgetown girl, right? But I will say, I think saying
I need help with that.
saying
I can't explain it.
I got it. Saying that I feel good because the team we lost to won it all or went further than projected is better than the math of we were this close, so by default we're better than the. You know what I mean? Like that whole we're as good as or almost there. I think it's okay.
That only makes it more frustrating to
Unless-
think you were that close, and then
Unless
you
it's
watch
a
them just
blood rival.
dominate the next team, and you're going, "Oh wait, they're a walkover." Like I would think, like we could have won. We could have done the same thing. Just two lousy goals, and we could have done that.
Unless you're dealing with a blood rival,
Yeah.
I think that the team that beats you doing well helps you. Because then it's like, all right, well, I mean, they beat y'all too. They handle their business.
So they ended up being the champ.
Yeah.
888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. How am I supposed to feel about that? And then how am I supposed to feel about the Hawks as well? It's sort of similar to if you're the Packers, and we're going to get to the Packers in Green Bay.
Packers.
If you're Green Bay, if you're Packers fans, do you feel good that the Bucks ended up winning, right? The Buccaneers go on to win the Super Bowl.
Well, that one's a little
Or do you
different.
go, wait a minute, the Chiefs had no offensive line. We could have won one there. If
And-
only Aaron Rodgers was allowed to play fourth down. If only Aaron Rodgers ran that one in. If only Aaron Rodgers, we could have won a Super Bowl. You think that was your Super Bowl? That was the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship, not the actual Super Bowl, because the Chiefs were so compromised at the offensive line that it was noticeable.
That one is tough, though, because, literally it's like two plays.
See, it's not easy being a fan, Monica,
It's not easy being a fan.
because you have no control. You have to figure out how you're supposed to feel.
I do think, and our very smart producer Pat made this point earlier, I do think it has to do a little bit with your team's outlook. Like, are you going to be back, or
Fair
was this
point.
the year to
Fair
do
point.
it?
Yeah, if the window was closing.
And then, so if you're a Packers fan, you're like, oh my God, if we don't know what this is going to look like in the fall, so
God.
you might, your window,
Nobody knows what that's going to look like. And that we'll get to, like I said, in a little while, because I got something to say about that. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, Alan Hahn, Monica McNutt in for the guys. Presented by Progressive Insurance, cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at progressive.com.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin are on the road to training camp. Count down the days to the football.